was a lot of innovation in the biliary space. There's a lot of world-renowned GIs from Japan, and that kind of shifted now. Yeah, and Israel, and it's just I haven't seen a lot of stuff coming out of Japan.
Okay,
aside
and then
from Sony, are there any other?
I'm sorry.
Sorry, I was going to ask in Japan, aside from Sony, are there any other companies that are or were involved in innovation?
I mean, that was just a joke about Sony and their television, right? But there's like other, again, companies in Japan I don't know by name, but it's very easy to find out. You know, it's again, a lot of the stuff domestically is going to be coming out of ConMed or Boston Scientific.
Right,
and then, you know, and the distributors, you know.
Yeah, on that one, like ConMed and Boston Scientific, because what was surprising to us, like if you in the cardiovascular space, a lot of the innovation is U.S. You know, cardiovascular, you know, either interventional cardiologists or surgeons, and they're tinkering, and then they get an idea, and it's like you said, right? You had an idea, and then you sold it to. Do you see in the GI space? You know, Boston Scientific and ConMed or other companies, are they getting, you know, a lot of this from the proceduralists here in the U.S.? That's where the idea is coming, and then they're commercializing it, or like what again? In addition to Israel,
yeah,
I'm just curious where is the innovation in the U.S. coming from? And is there? And you mentioned like there hasn't been, but on the incremental innovation, I'm assuming there's been quite a bit. Of any of the 11 or 9 categories you had, the product that you're buying today is not the same as the product you were buying 10 years ago or 20 years ago. Is that correct, or is it largely the same?
It is. No, it's not. It's not. But the general fundamental idea behind
it's still a forcep. Yeah, it's still a forcep. It's still a snare, but the design of the snare is a little different. The material is a little different. The bend is a little different. Right? All of that is, and that's coming from who? Like who's coming up with that idea that says I got to tweak it this way or that way?
Right. Let me give an example without mentioning names. So if there's a large company, their R&D budget might be, let's just say that their market cap is about $10 billion. Their R&D budget would be about $60 million, which is a very small number. And of that $60 million, part of that budget is to go out and acquire new technology from, you know, the mom and pops or people like me. And then they will spend that budget to acquire that technology or the patent rights or whatever. They also have an engineering department which may or not be that large, right? So they need the clinical, the example I gave you about Israel, they need that relationship between the clinical guy or gal and the engineering team, right? And so the way, just in my experience, what happened is I'm the mom and pop. I came out with an idea, a fundamental shift from what we're doing for a certain type of disease state. The engineering team said, oh, wow, this is really awesome. You know, we want this. But then it wasn't so much that they tweaked the technology or whatever. They said, we'll just buy it in this current state. But now their engineering team only focused on regulatory and compliance. So their actual R&D budget went towards, you know, are the materials FDA approved? You know, do we have the appropriate studies? Can we make all the market claims that you know you're saying? So it's all about compliance. And so that's what they're doing. You know, you mentioned cardiovascular. The margin for a pacemaker is much larger than a margin for a forceps, right? So then you look at the dollars. Where are the dollars coming from? You know, you're going to have venture capital and angel investors if you can project, you know, sales in the tens or hundreds of millions of dollars. And, you know, pacemakers and defibrillators and, you know, electrophysiology studies in the cardiovascular space are going to give you those numbers and those margins. But in GI, other than an endoscope, which might cost $20,000 or $30,000, the margins and the revenue stream is going to be much lower than cardiovascular. So that's why you're not seeing the innovation in the U.S. because there's not a lot of dollars in it, right? So I think what you're seeing is a lot of the small time GIs coming up and saying, hey, you know, we could do this better. What if we did it this way? And unless you have an engineer that's not willing to steal your idea at a large company, that idea will never reach the market, right?
Yeah. Are there some companies that do a better job, like does BSC, ConMed,